be happy to tell you that.
Oof. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's Friday night. Welcome to the end of the week, and congratulations on making it to the weekend. Hope you guys are doing great, and thank you so much for joining me right here. Sheldon will be along as soon as he can. He's tying up his bread-winning job, so he said he'd be along shortly. But until then, I'm going to do my best to keep you entertained. We got the news coming up tonight. We have some other articles I pulled up. We're going to finish up one having to do with some weird ghost story stuff, and maybe start another one, and then we're going to get to the Cryptid Corner and dive into that. So there's a bunch on deck for you guys tonight. Special congratulations to Eric Purple Hobbit, who did win a t-shirt in our Discord drawing for the month of November. Congratulations, rather, to Eric. And thank you to everybody that participated. As always, it's just really cool. So, I mean, it's such an amazing couple of communities that we have. I guess we got a few communities, honestly. Why did I hear something? That was weird. Huh. It's almost like there's someone else on the line. Is Sheldon already here? I don't think so. No, he's not on. He's not connected on Skype yet. So that's weird. I just had some voice in my ear, which is really strange. But anyway, I don't know. I had a bit of a scare, I don't know. It has nothing to do with the scope of the show, but God, I was brushing my teeth last night before I was going to bed, and I got one of those Sonicare toothbrushes, and I'm going to town. I'm cleaning up and taking no names, as it were. And I get done. I'm like, oh, there's something hard in there. And I'm like, what the hell is that? Before I'm about to spit out. So I fish it out, and it looks like this little, for lack of a better term, like a fat horseshoe of white hard material in my mouth. I'm like, oh, what is that? So I like squeeze on it, and I'm like, no, this is really this is really hard. It's not soft. I'm like, where the hell did that come from? And so I'm not feeling anything, nothing. And then I remembered, well, I had a tooth removed that was crushed by an impacted molar. And they pulled out the tooth and they said, there was some little pieces left and they may migrate out. I'm like, oh, okay, no worries. So I'm just like, well, I got this weird little piece of bone / tooth, whatever the hell it is. And I'm like, well, maybe it kind of worked its way out. And that's done, so that's cool. And then I spit out the toothpaste and I grab just a bunch of cold water and I throw it in my mouth. I'm like, ah! I had blown a filling in one of my teeth, and I don't know why it came out. But I was like, it was like that cold water went right to my nerve. And I'm here to tell you, I was puckering like an Olympic star. I was just like, oh my God, it was like electricity in my skull, and it hurt so bad. And I'm like, oh no, what's going on? And I didn't know that it was a filling at this point. I was just like, why is there a hole in my tooth? Like a hole. And I'm thinking, oh Christ, is my sonic care doing more than breaking up tartar here? What the hell is this? So I was a little disturbed, but it was a problem because, I go to sleep after I get done stressing and stuff, like, well, there's nothing I can do. I'll have to get a hold of a dentist tomorrow, which is today, and get this sorted out. My God, I'm thinking, is the tooth just destroyed? Is it broken? Is it is it going to have to be pulled? And I'm thinking, I'm going to smile. I'm going to have this gap in my teeth. I'm like, oh, this is all kinds of a nightmare. And I'm thinking, oh, there's always implants, anything I can do just to try to assuage my fears. So I try to fall asleep, and throughout the whole night, I'm a side sleeper. In case you needed to know that. I don't know why, but I sometimes drop my mouth open when I'm sleeping. And as soon as that cold air hit my mouth, it was like, again, it was going right to the nerve. And I'm like, oh God. So needless to say, I didn't sleep much. And I didn't dare eat anything. Got on the phone this morning, got in to a dentist, and it turns out they had done a filling in March, and somehow it just popped out. And so I was like, oh, and they're like, yeah, we can just fill that again. I'm like, oh, thank God. And then they didn't charge me as well. So it was a bit of misery for a while, but happy ending. My tooth is now fixed. I can feel my face again, which is good. And I'm here to bring you 2 hours of the portal. So what more could you want? I still have the same radiant smile. So anyway, that's a little bit of biographical information. God, it sucked though. Oh my God. I don't know, when the cold water after brushing my teeth, I mean, it didn't feel anything when I was brushing it at all. It must have popped out right at the very end or something. I don't know. But it was like, as soon as that water hit, it was just like, the just such a sheer, sharp pain going right to my skull. It was amazingly miserable. So tooth pain is the worst. You're right, Wizard. Man, that's rough. But it's fixed. So that's the good news. And it was, no charge to me because it was their filling had failed. So thank God. Anyway, that's a little bit of that. But Sheldon will be along shortly, as I said. Again, special congratulations to Eric Purple Hobbit, who won a shirt today in the Discord community. I do want to say that next Wednesday we're going to draw a members for any of you YouTube members. We're going to draw a name for one of you to win a shirt as well. So, but you got to be here to win, and we'll do the drawing at the end of the show on Wednesday. So if you're not here, we'll draw. We'll pull from the names of members that are in the show on Wednesday. So if you want a chance at winning a shirt, and you're a member, show up Wednesday. Don't miss it. And I'd love to give away a shirt to you. So just to let you know, that's on the agenda for next week. I would have done it this week. And maybe, I don't know, maybe I'll change my mind and do it tomorrow night. I think I'll do it next week though, because since it's a members, and it's members that are present, I can't stop the show and write down names and enter them into a spreadsheet like Don did last time. So I think we'll do that next week. And Don does a great job at that. So we'll pick a member winner next week. And I'll probably give away a few memberships as well. So show up anyway, because you might end up getting a complimentary membership. I always give away 5 free memberships on the t-shirt drawing days. So anyway, that's what we're going to do. So hope you're able to win it. Let's get to the news, I guess, and we'll start this fun fest off and actually talk about paranormal after 10 minutes of me yapping about stupid crap. But t-shirts are important, I think. And my tooth is good, so that's also important. So anyway, here comes the news, ladies and gentlemen. Let's see what's going on. The most trusted news, ladies and gentlemen, right here on the Paranormal Portal. And I'm so glad so many of you feel that way. John Stevenson always tells me that. So, all right. Welcome to the Paranormal Portal News Desk. I am your anchor, Brent Thomas. And I've got 3 news stories piled up for you today. And hopefully you're going to learn something. Hopefully you're going to leave here just going, wow, I didn't know that before. But, if not, then... I do what I can. So the first news story up tonight on the Paranormal Portal News is from an amazing site. Again, please support this site, unexplained-mysteries.com. I can't plug them enough. They're just amazing. They do a phenomenal job over there, and it's just incredible. Always timely and relevant. So unexplained-mysteries.com brings us the first story, and this one's a bit of a shocker. Not really. I expect this will be probably a pretty high turnover position, but this is coming from unexplained-mysteries.com reports. The head of the Pentagon's UFO office is stepping down after just 18 months, folks. Just 18 months. He's done. He's had enough. Just done. So I don't know. Again, I imagine it's got to be a pretty high pressure situation, all things considered. But, because you're still a bureaucrat. I think you're still a bureaucrat, but you're operating as an information officer and, this purveyor of knowledge and news, I guess, in a matter of speaking, about the whole UFO phenomena. So, but let's read the article, see what's going on. It says Sean Kirkpatrick had postponed his own retirement to head up the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, or also known as AARO, another one of their amazing acronyms. According to reports, Kirkpatrick took to the role as director of the Pentagon's fledgling UFO investigation office just 18 months ago and is now set to step down in December. He will be temporarily replaced by his deputy, Tim Phillips, until a new permanent director is found. I'm ready to move on, he said. I'll bet you are. I just can't imagine being the center of so much ridicule, especially from the UFO community, who I don't think is being, coddled or fooled at all by these posturings of transparency, which is not ever going to happen. It says, the move has certainly raised a few eyebrows, and it is currently unclear exactly what had prompted him to step down from the role so soon. Yeah, exactly. Earlier this year, Kirkpatrick had been at loggerheads with David Grush, the whistleblower and former top-level clearance holder of the Unidentified Aerial Phenomena Task Force, who made the startling claim that the U.S. government had long been in possession of intact and partially intact vehicles of non-human origin. So Mr. Grush, since AARO has stood up, and since I've been director, has not come to see us and provided any information, Kirkpatrick said. And what does that tell you? I mean, obviously, there's quite a bit of division apparently within different agencies in Washington, I would say. To be clear, AARO has yet to find any credible evidence to support the allegations of any reverse engineering program for non-human technology. Whether or not Grush has anything to do at all to do with Kirkpatrick's decision to stand down, however, remains unclear. Dr. Kirkpatrick has served the American people with honesty and integrity, tackling an incredibly difficult mission to explain the unknown, said Deputy Defense Secretary Kathleen Hicks. His commitment to transparency. There's that word again. Transparency with the United States Congress and the American public. God, it's like a bad joke. On UAP leaves a legacy the department will carry forward as AARO continues its mission. Transparency, to get that? You want me to read it again? It's such a good joke. And again, maybe they can't say everything. In all fairness, maybe there's things that they can't talk about. And I don't pretend that everybody's, deserves the full and complete truth. Maybe there's serious security reasons that they can't. I don't know. I mean, I'm just throwing it out there as a possibility. Maybe they just can't. But don't pee and pretend it's raining either. I don't think any of us are, we're ever holding our breath for this alleged new transparency to emerge in government. It's just not conducive to the government in its current workings. It's just not. There's no transparency currently. And this is not, it's a criticism, I suppose, but again, I don't know. I'm on the outside looking in. I don't have any objective stance other than I want to know. I think people maybe have the right to know if we're being visited, but do I need the whole story? Maybe not. Maybe not. But a story would be good with a level of truth to it. So, but that's my take on it. So there it is. He's stepping down. Someone else is stepping up. In the meantime, there's a deputy taking his place. I don't know. It just to me sounds like another tax hole that taxpayer money gets dumped in and not much of anything happens. It's just another tag on a door somewhere in the myriad of Washington. So, I don't think anybody really looked at this and went, wow, they're really coming clean. I don't think any of us were that naive, but in all fairness, I don't know the whole story either. So there you have it. Believe what you will. I'm a little on the skeptical side of it, all of it anyway. So there's the first story, folks. Maybe you didn't know that before now, but you know now. I should probably put it on this. There we go. So we can see how many people are here. All right, let's go to the next story here on the news. I got a little bit of a cough, sorry. All right. Now I know Sheldon isn't here because he would have done one of those dumb coughs. My little big branch himself. All right, here we go. Next story comes from unexplained-mysteries.com. This one's kind of weird. I don't know much about this, but I know that when you clean up historical objects of art, especially old paintings that have been collecting soot, dust, grime, dirt, dander, etc. for hundreds of years, it's surprising the difference between the aged piece of work and the restored piece of work. Sometimes I think I prefer the aged pieces of work, to be honest with you, because when it's got all that age on it, it just makes the shadows so much deeper, makes the I don't know, it gives it so much more life and breadth. But here's a story that's a little bit creepy. So see what you think. This is, again, unexplained-mysteries.com brings us this story. And it is Eerie Demon reappears following restoration of 18th century painting. Well, they didn't know it was there until they started cleaning, and then they found this. Yeah, that's awful disturbing. The creepy figure had been hiding beneath layers of paint and varnish in a painting by Sir Joshua Reynolds, entitled Death of Cardinal Beaufort. The painting, which was created in 1789, depicts a scene from Shakespeare's Henry VI, Part 2, in which the power-hungry cardinal is on his deathbed. "Oh, beat away the busy meddling fiend who lays siege unto his wretched soul," King Henry said. Sir Reynolds had originally painted the piece showing an actual literal fiend in the form of a demonic creature lurking in the shadows just behind the cardinal as he lay dying. At the time, however, the inclusion of an imaginary creature stirred up a great deal of controversy, with one critic arguing that it was too ludicrous and puerile to escape censure. It didn't fit in with some of the artistic rules of the times. To have a poetic figure of speech represented so literally in this monstrous figure, said John Chu of the National Trust. When it was first shown in the Shakespeare Gallery in 1789, it generated more controversy than any other work on show. While the renowned painter didn't actually paint over the demon himself, centuries of degradation and layers of varnish eventually caused the figure to disappear from the image. It wasn't until the painting recently underwent restoration work that the long-lost demon appeared from the gloom once more, taking pride in place behind the cardinal, as Reynolds had always intended. Well, there you go. The demon showed up. It is kind of poetic, though, I suppose, if it was lying obscured through the ages and through the restoration emerged this shadowy, lurking fiend. I don't know. That's kind of creepy. But anyway, again, I think, I've seen some of the befores and afters of some of the classical works, and to me, they looked more amazing with the age on them, and maybe that's like with a lot of collector's items, even old objects, coins, whether it's old weaponry like swords and stuff. Some people get them and are like, yeah, I'm going to clean it up and sell it. And when they do that, they actually destroy the value because they're washing off that patina of the age, the ages that this has existed through, which is actually a part of the value of the piece. And so, basically you just leave it as it is and that'll fetch you the best price. But when you try to shiny it up, you're actually destroying your profit margin quite a deal. So anyway, very cool story. Yeah, kind of creepy, but it's just, it's obviously not a real demon. It's an artistic depiction, but it's a wretched creature nonetheless. All right, that's that one. And then I have one more for you here. And I didn't hear anything about this one until I pulled up this article, and I actually pulled it up on Wednesday. But I didn't end up reading it because it would have just gotten too long. So this story seems kind of disturbing, I guess. But then again, does it surprise you? And what am I talking about? Well, I'm glad you asked, because I'm talking about a story from unexplainedmysteries.com, which apparently is from the world of the bizarre. And as of November 6, 2023, so quite recently, strange green slime emerges from manhole covers in New York City. New York City? Get a rope. There you go, folks. Some green slime was coming up from the sewers. That's what, unless that's Gatorade, that's a very bad thing. The bizarre scene looked like something out of an episode of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. When Dan Pantello recently spotted a strange green substance oozing out from beneath the manhole covers outside the World Trade Center in New York City, he didn't know if he needed to call for a plumber or the Ghostbusters. Oh, yeah, that's right. The second Ghostbusters had that weird slime that brought Vigo or whatever back from that painting. That was creepy. Grabbing his phone, he captured an image and posted it up on social media. Before long, the picture had ended up on the front page of the New York Post. That's pretty good. While many users offered their own tongue-in-cheek suggestions as to what was going on, the reality of the situation inevitably turned out to be somewhat mundane. The slime was, in fact, water filled with green dye used by plumbers to detect leaks. Exactly why it was bubbling out into the streets like that remains unclear. I guess they found their leak. But it definitely wasn't radioactive waste, and Gozer the Gozerian, wasn't about to make a triumphant return anytime soon. Contrary to the community note, I think the sludge is radioactive ooze, Pantello joked. Source, Divine Intuition. Well, there you go. That does look creepy. I mean, if I saw that coming up, I guess, what would you think? Yeah, I didn't know that plumbers use dyes to create leaks, or to look for leaks, rather. And I think it makes perfect sense, to make that water really jump out, it becomes fluorescent green. I mean, it does look like a Sharpie, that kind of, no, yeah, not Sharpies, but those highlighters. Looks like the highlighters you'd use on a book, that kind of color. So, yeah, I mean, it'd be hard to miss. But apparently, folks, nothing to see here. Move along. So that's our last article up for the news tonight. I hope you learned something. And if so, you're welcome. Let's get back to the show and find out just what else we got cooking. Very cool. There you go. That was the news. And I don't know about you, but I probably should turn this to here, right? That was the news, and I feel more informed personally. I hope you guys do as well. Let me pull up the chat and see what I've been missing. Anybody say anything to me? No. Nobody's talking to me. Okay, good. Which is good. I mean, sincerely, because when I'm reading articles like that, it's really hard to, zoom back into the chat, especially when it's all covered up with other tabs while I'm pulling news stories from my tab farm. I learned I still have no reason to go to New York. I was in New York. Actually, I went there with my cousin Paul and his family back when I was 18 and had the time of my life. That was just a ball, and we got to do some amazing things and see some amazing things, and it was a lot of fun. But I got to tell you, I wouldn't be so anxious to go today at all. As a matter of fact, I think it's one of those places that's pretty caustic and volatile right now. So best just to stay home, I think. How you doing, John Temperin? Good to see you. Great to see you. Great to see you all. Thank you all for coming in. As we buckle through this fantastic Friday frights here on the Paranormal Portal. And remember, the phones are open if anybody has a burning desire to call in and tell me about something paranormal that happened to them. By golly, I'm all ears. Well, I'm, also eyes and hands and stuff. See what I did there? Yeah, it was lame. Sorry. You only get, I don't get paid real well for the humor, so. There we go. All right. Let's see. What am I going to do next? I'm going to do some article that we were burning through the other night a little bit. And this is it. So the article we're going to revisit or visit again. I don't know how far we'll get. I got another one up on standby just in case. Either we'll read it tonight or tomorrow. But we're also tomorrow night. Remember, we'll be doing the question of the week. Special thanks again to Chucky for making the question of the week happen. So that'll be good. Let's see. We're going to go to the Ranker article, and this is creepy stories of encounters with humanoids. And this is by Amanda Sedia Keviner. It's a scrape article again. So it's these little quips that people have submitted about their own experiences when they're being farmed on the medias. So this first one is, I don't think I read this one. It's the top on the list from the last time, so I don't know. If I read it, it might be a quick repeat, but if not, I don't think it is, though. So we're going to visit this article, and again, this is people's takes of their bizarre experiences with humanoids, which means they are human-like, but are not human. So, all right, the first one is pale-skinned and dark-eyed humanoids, and this is by Sniggity. Sniggity is the Reddit author of this one. It says, an investigation/shamanic group on the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation, Oglala, Lakota, South Dakota, was called in to investigate and bless a home. The incidents began when two sisters observed a black-eyed boy outside the home. Ooh, dark-eyed kids. Or black-eyed kids. Yeah, that's not good. It's funny where they turn up or why they turn up or how they turn up. I mean, I don't think that there are packs of black-eyed kids wandering aimlessly. I think that they're more of a spiritual manifestation of some kind or something to that effect. Maybe not spiritual, but maybe an energetic or negative energetic manifestation of something. So I think they can be anywhere they want at any time. I don't think they're governed by the rules of space the same way all of us in our meat suits are. But anyway, not long later, a group of ashen white-skinned children with black eyes were seen congregating around the property in an attempt to interact with the other children living there. The first two occasions, there were only two of them, and they asked to be let inside the house to get food. The third time, a third one showed up, and this time they asked for blood. Oh, God. Yeah, that took a bad turn. Yeah. I mean, food's bad enough, but they're asking for blood. It's like, no, I'm sorry, we're fresh out. They were never granted access to the house. The children described their voice as not normal, robotic, and monotone. Pets also went missing around this time around the property. The parents of the children recalled seeing these spooky children too. They also claimed to have noticed strange events around their home, including poltergeist activity and the sighting of, on at least two occasions, strange entities that they later thought to be alien. Wow. So I don't know. I don't know if they would, I mean, they could be extraterrestrial, I suppose, when you're thinking of black-eyed kids. They would have to be incredibly horrible, whatever race they are or are a part of or are projected from. I mean, it's just an ugly, ugly thing because they're not good. They're just not good. I don't know. That's really creepy. All right, but that's all we got to go on that one. I don't know how it resolved. There's about 1 million questions I have about it. But with these small form submissions, there's just no way to know a lot of other information like, hey, what happened? How did it get cleared up? Were they able to purge this? Was it a spiritual activity that got rid of it, or was it something else? Or did it just run its course, But we don't know. So whatever the case is, still creepy. All right, here's the next one. Weird encounter while camping. I guess I could do this. Put it up on screen, right? There we go. Weird encounter while camping. And this is from Bad Reputation 2611. It says, when I was camping with my family several years ago, my father and I were out walking in the dark with a flashlight when we heard a kind of chirping noise, like a person doing a crappy imitation of a bird call. Oh, see, that sounds like a Sasquatch. They're often referred to as the ventriloquist by a lot of First Nation tribes, but people have heard these really horrible, well, not horrible, but just odd sounds that are kind of like bird calls, but very different. Like we heard an owl, but it was like a 300-pound owl. It'd be like, hoo, hoo, hoo. Not your traditional like, hoo, hoo, So, it's like, it's like they try to do normal calls, I guess, to blend in, but it doesn't really work out well for them, apparently. We stopped and shined our flashlight around, and then we got up into the trees. The beam landed on something maybe 3 feet tall, standing up, humanoid, crouch. What says standing up, humanoid, crouching. Okay. With its hands holding onto the branches. It was hairless and very pale-skinned, pretty much white. Oh no, pale crawler. Oh, those are creepy. That's got to be disturbing as hell to see. Its head was abnormally large with 2 huge eyes and bat-like ears. We only saw it for a split second because my dad jerked the flashlight away when he first saw it, and when we tried to find it again with the flashlight, it was gone without a trace. I asked my dad if he had seen that, and he had, and we were both very perplexed by it. Yeah, that's time to go home. When when you're camping in an area with these things, it's a great time to just pack up and go home. When I've told other people this story, they speculate that it could have been an owl or some other animal, but my dad and I were both fairly experienced outdoors and sportsmen, and we've never seen anything that looked like that before or since. I went back and double checked with my mother, and she's fairly certain this took place at a campground near Stanley, Idaho. Ooh, wait a minute. Huh? I think that's in South Idaho, though. I'm in the north, so maybe they don't get this far up, hopefully. At Lola Creek Campground, and she told me that we left early because there was something moving around the campsite at night that spooked my dad, which I only learned of just now. Yeah, God only knows. And again, what are these things? What do they want? They don't appear to be, I don't know, just aggressive as hell. I mean, doesn't seem like they go out of their way to attack. But could this lead up to an attack? Was it building up to something like that? So I'm glad that they packed up and got out of there, because that's just all kinds of creepy, weird, and horrible. So you be the judge, but that's my take. The next one, a crawler inches from his face. Another crawler. Ugh. Now, this is interesting because you don't usually hear too many, and I'm assuming this is a white crawler. I could be wrong. It could just be something crawling. But you don't usually hear a lot of these white crawler stories. Generally, I mean, they come up from time to time, but they are very sporadic and usually pretty rare. And I don't know if that's a testimony to there not being many of them out there, or is it just that for the most part they don't like to be seen. I would assume maybe both. I don't know. I just don't know how many could be out there with any of these things, but at least with Bigfoot and stuff, with the proliferation of reports all over the map, it seems like there's a pretty healthy population of them out there. Potentially dogmen too, and you know, I don't know, but I'm making an assumption here. It could be dogmen that are really populated as well, but maybe less so than Bigfoot. But when Vic Cundiff was on the show, he thought maybe there were as many, if not a few more dogmen. I don't know. It's anybody's guess, but I think it's wildly speculative to try to come up with anything with, you know, any kind of certainty as far as population densities and stuff like that, because we just don't know. We just have no clue. I mean, if you could base it around how many sightings there are, then I would say there are more Sasquatch than any of these other things. But with Sasquatch and Dogman, it is very possible that there's a lot of misidentification between them as well. So maybe a lot of these Sasquatch reports should actually be Dogman reports, or vice versa. You know, that maybe the Dogman is quite rare, and a lot of the reports of people claiming to see them is just a misidentified Sasquatch. But again, just on the outside looking in, throwing ideas at it. So a crawler inches from his face, and this is by Crushed Newt, Newt. Newt. She turned me into a newt. Well, I got better. That line will always crack me up. All right, so this encounter happened around 2 years ago while I was living with my parents in Texas. At the time, I was waking up from a short nap and did not see it as anything unusual. I just figured it was some kind of partially dream or something of the like. I was napping on my bed at the time. I had a futon, so I wasn't too far off the ground and in the middle of the day, and I can't remember the exact timing of when this took place to save my life. As I opened my eyes, I saw, for only a second, the image of some white humanoid creature keening on its haunches, I think it means haunches, looking at me, because it says hunches. It couldn't have been that tall since its eyes were only a few inches above my bed. I could see the top of its knees, which it was resting its head against. God, it's limber. While I can't remember many details about its face, I knew somehow that it wasn't entirely right, for lack of a better term. I can't remember if it even had any hair on its head or the color of its eyes, but I can remember that its skin was very pale and it looked as if it was just skin and bones. Yeah, I mean, that sounds like a traditional crawler. The other story talked about bat ears, which is not common in these reports, but, again, it could be just some misidentified trait. Either way, maybe they tuck them back when they're getting real close or something. Who knows? I don't know why the image of this creature was so vivid, even though I only saw it for a second, but even to this day, it stands out. I've only recently been able to give a name to this thing. I saw a post on this sub describing these types of creatures as crawlers. Yeah, crawlers are pale crawlers. Yep. All right, so yeah, there's another one. And that's very interesting. Again, I haven't heard this many different reports of them in one grouping I don't think ever. So that's pretty cool to see several reports of the same anomaly. All right, this is the invasive roof creature, and this again could be pale crawlers because they're sometimes climbing on people's houses trying to look in windows and stuff. This is from Reminiscence. Okay. I'm an 18-year-old male that has had 2 strange encounters in my life so far. The first was seeing a UFO, and the second is what I'm about to share here. It was around 1 a.m., and I was gaming on my PC since it was a weekend and I didn't have to worry about waking up for school. I stood up from my desk and made my way to the bathroom. I did my business as usual, but I noticed that the window was open. Oh, no. God, could you imagine? It's like, hey, how'd that get open? That's creepy. That's horrible. It was one of those windows that you have to slide to open and close since I live in Australia. It had mosquito netting, although it was pitch black outside during the day. It had rained on and off multiple times and the wind was picking up, and I thought I would go and close the window in case it rained again. The window was located directly above the bathtub, so in order to reach it, I put 1 foot inside. The window would always require a bit of effort to close, so
Dentist.
What does that say? Ah, my God, are you serious? The ghost box just said dentist. What? What are the odds of that, folks? What are the odds that it just said dentist? I was just telling you guys I went to the dentist today. I had blown a filling. And now it says dentist. That is incredibly interesting. Wow. Oodie-doodie-doo. You are right. I went to the dentist. My tooth is now fixed. But thank you for your inputs. That's pretty cool. Wow. That really blows me away because generally that thing is just kind of random. Like I'll be talking about cryptids or whatever, says pickle, or something just random. But that was a very, very pointed response to something actually going on. The ghost died in a dentist chair, maybe. I don't know. But yeah, I went to the dentist today, and my tooth is fixed. Thank God. Well, at least I hope it is. It's a little tender today. Now that the Novocaine wore off, but it's doing good. Wow, I'm impressed with that actually. That is absolutely on point and relevant to discussions we've been having. So interesting. All right. Not a ghost. It was Google listening. Google is now hacking my ghost detector. Maybe. I wouldn't put it past them. Good Lord. Where was I again? It rained again. All right. So I started to close it and it made its usual sound as it dragged against the frame. And now, before I get into the scary part, I have to explain the layout of the house. God, it's going to get scarier. This is my old 2-story apartment complex, And outside and under the window is a little roof overhang, which shields the back door. As soon as the window started to close, I heard 2 loud footsteps banging on the roof, and then for half a second, I saw the silhouette of a humanoid being entirely black go past the window as if it had jumped. I heard no landing sound, but this was entirely possible since the fence to the left of the bathroom was about 2 meters away and had tall grass on the other side. Now, I know it was really dark, but I swear this wasn't a bird or a bat with its outstretched wings. It was definitely a humanoid shape and much too large to be a possum. They got possums in Australia? Wow, those things are everywhere. I instinctively jerked back out of the bathtub and ran into my parents' room, screaming and waking them up. Now, this is the part that makes me feel sick in my stomach. My parents' curtains were open, which is normal for them, but this means that the creature would have been staring in at my sleeping parents and 3-year-old sister, since their window is resting slightly above the overhang previously mentioned. I don't know how I managed to sleep that night. If this was truly an alien, then it was only 1 meter away from me through a wall and a window. Yeah, that's a lot to suck in. And, is it a one-off? And this is where the questions pile up. Have you noticed other weird activity? Is this just one odd thing that happened? Said he's only had 2 encounters, this being the second one. The first was a UFO. So is the 2 related? Maybe. Could be being spied on by, some extraterrestrial beings. But they could be entirely different too. That's creepy. All right, here's the next one. Odd man spotted behind a shed. From Shane O'Fan. Almost every week, my wife and I go to our friend's house on Friday nights. And a few months ago, one of my friends said that she had been noticing lights in the sky. She said they were multicolored red, green, white, and blue in a cross pattern. Sounds pretty UFO-y to me. One night we were hanging out and I had to relieve myself, so I walked to the side of the shed and did what needed to be done. When I looked up, I saw him. He was about 4 feet tall and pale white. God, there's so many of these. He had a normal-sized head for a creature his size, not the stereotypical big-headed, big-eyed gray, and beady eyes. There was no clothing, and while I saw no genitalia, I just sort of know he was a he. When he saw that I noticed him, he scurried away behind the shed. I went after him, but when I rounded the corner, he was gone. Since then, I've seen him one other time in the same situation. Neither time was I afraid. In fact, I felt a certain level of calm and peace. Wow, that's interesting. The way you do when you walk out of a church or have had a drink past being buzzed. I don't know who or what he was, but I want to. Well, I got to give this person a lot of credit. Shane O'Fan, you are incredibly brave. And maybe that's an implanted thing. Maybe they can make you feel calm when you shouldn't be. Maybe they can take away that adrenalized, state in order to make you more lethargic or something. I don't know. Is that a form of predation? Yeah, that's questions I would have for sure. Creepy. Oh, we do have a call. Let's see who's calling us. Since we got a call, let's see who's calling us. Area code 626, you're on the air.
Hi, Brent. It's Ruthie.
Hi, Ruthie. How are you?
I'm fine. I've been wanting to call in to give you a little info on the black-eyed kids, and I just haven't called you in ages.
Oh, good. Well, I'm glad you did.
So,
what's going on? What do you think?
Well, I have many medicine men that teach me these days.
Uh-huh.
So one woman that I learned from, she was asked a few times by her students what the black-eyed kids were.
Okay.
So she finally told us that they're cryptid.
Okay.
And, she says do not let them in.
Yeah.
And if you do, you'll wake up with some blood that has left your body. So I just wanted to give you guys a quick note. And to me, it felt right when she told that to us. And because I couldn't figure it out either. I thought, well, maybe it's a vampire, but she states that it's actually a cryptid. She learned that from her clan, her Chakta teachers, and many more. Yeah, I have about 6 or 7 medicine that I'm learning from right now, and
wow.
So I'm gathering all this information, and I don't really share it, but I thought, let me just share it tonight because I've been wanting to say something.
No, I think that's wonderful because, I mean, it's one big question mark with these things, and it's because there are some reports of people seeing them, performing what is clearly very superhuman feats, like one person in a report I read a long time ago saw them out. They lived in a multi-level apartment complex, and they saw them outside of their screen door and didn't let them in. And then the next thing they saw, it was like on top of the roof on the other side in just moments. So it was like, pow, And how did they get there? How did that happen?
Really scary.
It is, yeah. It's really creepy.
That's creepy.
Right. That's pretty bizarre.
That's definitely a cryptid move.
Yeah. It's very supernatural, whatever it is. But, I guess I certainly do respect the opinion of the medicine people because, they've been doing this journey for a long time and sharing information for thousands of years. So, they
thousands of years.
Yeah. That's wonderful. So
it's pretty awesome what I'm learning.
I'll bet.
Yeah.
I'll bet.
Oh, go ahead.
Are you? What is your game?
Yeah, I haven't.
Are you working on becoming a medicine person yourself?
Woman? Oh yeah.
Oh, wonderful.
I'm getting there.
Wow.
Yeah, it's been a journey. It's been really interesting, and it's very. Most people would say it's very supernatural, but to me, it's more natural than this reality. It's
yeah.
I've learned so much.
Wow.
Yeah, we'll have to do a podcast.
Sure. Yeah. So
is it a podcast?
Is it like you've out there? Yeah, is it like you've been taking off the blinders, like as you're learning, and is it like removing layers of I don't know, doubt and all this stuff? I don't know. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, but with me, it's been my whole lifetime of learning.
Sure.
And I think it's more like the veil is thinning. Plus, I'm learning a lot about vortexes and portals.
Oh, okay.
And how to find them, how to open them, how to close them. It's all so real to me. It's funny because I have neighbors that I talk to, and they're like, God, did you see that? I go, yeah. They go, what is that? So it's like people, like, everyday people that don't even get into what we're into,
right, have
been coming to me. And people in my family go, ask Ruthie, she knows. I'm like, uh-oh. I even had a cousin says, yeah, Ruthie's a shaman. I'm like, it's a heavy duty thing, but I've always wanted to do it.
Wow.
And it's amazing. It's like, hold on to your butt.
Yeah.
Hold on to your butt.
Yeah. What a fantastic
it's a
experience.
Wild ride.
Yeah, no doubt. I can't imagine. But that's an incredibly powerful experience, and you're incredibly fortunate to have not only one but several teaching you. That's incredible.
It's been good, but I also ground myself in like the Ascended Masters and protection, and you can't do one without the other. You've got to surround yourself with protective light.
Yeah.
So I always tell people, and I teach those tools. Yeah. So it's been amazing.
Yeah, it sounds very amazing. That's cool. Wow.
It's been fun.
Well,
it's been
keep
real
us
fun. I that's all I can say.
Well,
yeah.
and please, anytime you have information like this, I'd love for you to call in because, I just don't know. And that's the big part. I do want to know. And I think to ignore those wisdoms would be absolutely foolish, that these are cultures with thousands of years of stories and understanding. And most of this stuff just jumped off the page for a lot of us, in the last decade or so. Yeah. So now that people are having these conversations.
Experiences, yeah.
Yeah.
What really makes me happy, Brent, is more people are seeing Bigfoot, or I like to say Mushtaba.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many names for them.
Sure.
And yeah, that's been my that's been my happy place with them. And remember, I texted you and gave you that little message about if you really want to see one, you have to dream one.
Oh, yeah, I do. I do. Yep.
Yeah, well, just ask, and they should come, and they usually come in your dreams first if they want to find you.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, we should talk. And I'll give you some info, and then you can tell me what I can share that won't, scare the pants off everyone.
Well, I think we've got a pretty stoic audience. They've heard a lot already.
Okay.
So, but yeah, thank you so much for calling in, Ruthie. It's wonderful to talk to you.
I know. I've been wanting to talk to you for a while, so it's good to hear your voice, and I'm glad you're well.
Yeah, doing okay.
And, yeah, okay, we'll talk soon.
Okay,
love ya.
Love you too. Take care, Ruthie.
Okay, bye.
That's nice. Yeah, I think the First Nations are a wellspring of knowledge and experience that's, our Western ideas often overlooked, but I think, these are lands that they have been in for thousands of years. We've got hundreds of years under our belt, but there's so much we don't know. Even the world over, I think that the shamanic traditions are the old wisdoms, the old knowledge, and to ignore that, to me, it just seems like a tragedy. Like, it would be foolish not to listen to the wise and the learned, as it were. But anyway, very cool. Yeah, that's wonderful. Very, very cool. Yeah. Are you here, Sheldon?
I am here.
Well, welcome. Let me get you on here as well. Hold on, because I know I got to get your cameras back on and stuff. I forgot to do that at the launch of the show.
That's okay.
Is it? Okay, well, good. I got to turn off a few things. But yeah, how's your day? How's it going?
Oh, it's going well. Got home, took care of some things, and here I am, ready to go with my Windows XP background.
Well, it's all important. That's good. I'm glad you're here.
It's all sunshine and rainbows over here.
It always is, isn't it?
I'm Don Longbeard today. Nice.
You were. I turned off the lower third. Yeah. I turned it off. I was just catching up.
Yeah.
Sorry, I had to clear my throat there. But I'm telling you after I did it, so that you didn't make one of those dumb noises.
Very unfortunate.
Yeah, well, we can only do so much. Let's see, the odd man behind the shed. But I want to. Okay, here we go. One more. We'll read one more. This one looks pretty good. And then we'll start diving in on the cryptids and see what the hell's going on there. All right. Are you ready, Sheldon?
Always.
You missed what happened too, but didn't you? You today I blew a filling last night from my teeth. I didn't know. I thought my tooth broke or something. I didn't know what the hell was going on. I'm like, oh God, and so I dealt with pain and stuff all night, and then got to a dentist today, and it turns out it was a filling they had done that got popped out or whatever. So they redid it. No harm, no foul. It's fixed now, whatever. But the ghost box, not long ago, on the X paranormal detector on the computer said dentist. I was pretty blown away.
Ooh.
I was seriously impressed, because that's relevant. Yeah. That's a relevant word, Very rarely does it give us anything relevant, at least not that I've been able to interpret. Now, it could all be relevant in some way, but I'm missing it. I'm not catching the meaning of a lot of these weird, numbers that it throws out, and just, strange words. A few times, though, it's been, really dead on, and that's pretty intense, but this is one of them. So I thought I'd share that with you because you missed it.
Oh, man, something I've always been curious about, and this actually brings up that subject, is I wonder if time flows differently for them.
Oh, yeah, I mean, that's very possible. Maybe they live in the non-Euclidean space-time where all moments are happening, and they can just pop into whichever ones they want. Yeah.
Yeah.
Could be. Could be a wellspring of moments they're surrounded with, and they just choose which ones to interact with. Yeah, that could very well be. So, Glades Creatures in here. Wow, very cool. Glades Creatures noticed a person and others to my left, but I could only see one person. He asked me if I didn't want to have to worry about this whole thing. And I nodded, and then he motioned his arm towards this, and then it cuts off. So, well, Glades Creatures, I'm not familiar with your name, but thank you so much for coming in and being a part of the journey. I hope you'll subscribe and be here on all future shows. Of course, any of them you want to. That would be wonderful. So, there it is again. Seem to express. I guess this Glades Creatures have been sharing quite a few things in the chat, but I can't go backwards since I just read the latest one.
Oh no,
sorry. I didn't know. So, but it's always neat to look up and see a new name. That's exciting to me. It's neat when new people stop in and go, "Hey, what's this?"
Makes me happy.
It does make me happy too. So we're going to read this one. Then we'll move on to the cryptid corner. This is Weird Imaginary Friend and Stalker. It's both.
Oh, wow.
This is by, God, I can't read that name. That's a horrible name. I can't read that. That's terrible. The hell's wrong with people?
Garbage. That's terrible.
That is horrible.
I shouldn't laugh. That's actually garbage.
Well, it's just so classless. It's like, that's just disgusting. I'm not reading that name. It's on screen if anybody wants to know who wrote this story, but I will not say that. That's disturbing as hell. What the hell? When I was 10 years old, I had this bizarre ghost girlfriend. You know what? I'm not reading any of this. Anyway, I'm done right there. Starts off with a ghost girlfriend and a name like that. It's like, nah, I'm skipping it. I'm not going to do it. I'll put a link in the chat if anybody wants to check out the actual story that I'm skipping. You may very well do that, but there's no way in hell. That's just, God. All right. We'll read this one instead. And this is by an anonymous Redditor. There was a shadow person in his house. It says this happened in 1985, about 4 years before people started getting internet access. We had never heard of shadow people or anything remotely similar, and if we wanted to learn about something, we went to the public library, and I took every opportunity to read about ghosts, vampires, demons, you name it. I grew up in a very negative and angry home, so in retrospect, I can see how something like this came to be in my own home. Excuse me. A friend and I were hanging out at my house, and we decided to leave. It was 2 years under the driving age, I was 2 years under the driving age, but Tom had his license and his own car. We left the house through the kitchen door into the backyard, from which you make an immediate right turn to go through the gate. And you're standing on the driveway, even though nobody else was home. We typically didn't bother looking or locking the kitchen door because it was a safe, quiet neighborhood, and the door was behind a gate. We went to his car, but as I got in, I remembered he'd forgotten something inside. Well, I waited in the car as he went back in through the gates and into the kitchen. The kitchen was what I believe is referred to as a shotgun kitchen. When you went in through that door, you could see the whole length of the kitchen and down the entire hallway that ended in a bathroom. Down that hall, the doorway to my bedroom was the first door on the left, and immediately across from it was the doorway to the den with a TV and a sofa. Not much more than 10 seconds after he went in, Tom came flying through that gate faster than I thought he could move. His skin had gone pale, and he was thoroughly terrified. He jumped in the car, turned it over, and hauled his butt out of my driveway. And he wouldn't answer my questions about what the hell was going on until we were gone. He told me he went into the kitchen, movement down the hall caught his attention. He said he saw something come out of my room, cross the hall, and enter the den. And he said it was shaped like a person and reminded him of a ghost, except that instead of being white, it was black. And that's what scared the hell out of him. I had known Tom for a couple of years prior to this, and being a liar of any kind was just not part of his personality. He wasn't the type to make things up. I lived in that house for 4 more years and never saw anything like that myself, but Tom never set foot in it again. He moved away a couple of years after this happened, and we lost touch, but a year or two after we moved, He tracked me down and showed up one night while me and some friends were shooting pool and drinking beers. And I asked him about it, and he stood by his original account. I believe him. Wow. There you go. I guess maybe that was more for him than for anything else. Maybe it was something that was following him and not the people that actually lived there,
Yeah.
Sometimes people drag stuff into your space. And the bad part of that is when the things they drag in like your space better. Like, no, I like this place better. I'm staying here. So
that's actually interesting when you think about it. Like, if you ever get a bad vibe about someone, how do you know it's based upon them and maybe rather it's something attached to them?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's a great point. When it comes to empathy, sometimes it might be one or the other or both, or, it's hard to say.
Yeah.
I remember one time years ago, and it was during a time when I felt like I was dealing with a pretty negative thing around me. And I got this reading as a gift from a friend of mine. And this was a TV personality reader, and I don't know, I called it and had the phone reading. It was, before the internet. And this person gave me a reading that was just like, who the hell are they talking about? It's like, oh, I can see you're very easy to anger and you have severe, emotional problems and all this stuff. I'm like, what? And I'm thinking, my God, I'm human. Of course, I get angry, I get uptight and stuff. But this person was reading a stranger. It was just everything was very I'm like, well, no, I don't think I am, And to this person, they're pretty convinced, and so I just got through the reading and then just kind of scrubbed my hands with it because it was like, I don't know what they were reading, but it wasn't me, but it was someone else.
Yeah.
Finally said, maybe they weren't reading you. Maybe they were reading what's been bothering you. And I was like, ooh, that's a possibility, So, it was very, very strange, but it was like, it wasn't me they were reading. They were talking about a complete stranger. I'm like, nah, I'm anything but easy to anger. I do get angry, of course. I'm a human being, and I, when I get pissed, but it takes forever to get me there. You gotta know specific buttons to get me there in a hurry. And most people
yeah.
What?
Well, I think you're the most patient person I know, actually.
Well, I try to be. I try to just deal with things, in a calm, measured way because I think it's important. But yeah, what this person was saying, you have a lot of personality issues. You're very easy to anger, and then she was giving me advice about that. I'm like, okay, So I quit trying to correct her because it was just like she was bound and determined to read this for me. So I let her finish, and then it's like, well, thank you so much, and hung up, and that was it. I was like, man, that was a waste of a lot of money. So weird. But that's interesting that you would say that because I think that can be the case, that sometimes the readers may, target they think it's you, but it's not you. So anyway.
Yeah.
Yep. Very wild. So we're going to go on now to some cryptids because we love us some cryptids here in the portal. Right, Sheldon? Right.
Absolutely.
Oh, there you are. You're kind of laggy tonight. You got your firewall on or your...
Nope. No, I'm hearing you fine. I muted it and I had to come over and unmute it.
No, it's your camera's like lurching around. So.
Oh, I see it. Oh, it is on. Oh my God, it is on. You're right. Okay. It's off now.
Okay. Glad we got that sorted out. I love a good firewall and a good VPN and all that, but yeah, they're not good for streaming very much. So
they slow everything down.
Yeah, they definitely do. There you go. Now you're moving in real time. Good. Okay.
Yeah.
So I guess we're going to dive into the cryptids, folks. So if you're ready to hear about some creatures, Sheldon, you ready?
Yes.
Yes, you are. Okay. Well, hope all of you are ready. In fact, before we do that though, let's do some shout outs. Find out just who's here. Cause again, there's, I've seen a new name, so maybe there's more. Glades Creatures.
It's time to chat, everyone.
Yeah. So if you want to shout out, just type something in the chat, because the shout outs are only participating viewers, on YouTube. So, if you're not typing it doesn't give us a list of all people that are connected. It's just those that are. There you go. Perfect, Jake or John. Sorry, John says something. Yeah, there you go.
Perfect.
Jordan's playing solitaire. Nice. So we're like mood music. We're mood music. Good. Okay.
We're basically a podcast for some people. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's fine. Good enough.
Yeah.
All right. Do you want to do some shout outs, Sheldon?
Well, the time has come, everyone. Now it's time. First, we have Berticuda, 1978. Cool Hand is here. Deb Varner, Flyer Tuck, Glades Creature, John Stevenson, Jordan Cogburn, Karen Alberding,
Yep.
Maggie M10, more of this, more of that. Here. Nina's here, Portal Mom. RJ Windwalker. Is that Maggie M10 who came in? Justin Goodearth. RJ Windwalker. Ruthie Castro. I'm here. SoCal Squatcher. The Fourth Color. Weapon X5. Ooh, I like that name.
Yeah.
Wizard Moon cool. 13 and ZX81 V2. Noah Lowe is here.
Okay.
Kevin Whip, maybe.
Kevin Whip.
And
Whip, yeah.
All white.
Well, it could be Whip. I'm not sure. Yeah.
Sorry, Kevin. I did my best.
You did fine.
Yeah. But that's all that's everyone, looks like.
That's everyone. Okay. I wanted to first of all, thank you all for being here. And second of all, the Fourth Color remembered. Thank you, Fourth Color. He is a member for 14 months now here on the show. And he says, I'll be here. I told we're going to do a member giveaway of a t-shirt next Wednesday. And so Fourth Color is definitely going to be here. So very cool.
Yes.
And ladies and gentlemen, I mean, if you're looking for a free t-shirt, of course you can always buy one on your own if you want. That's very appreciated. But if you're looking for a free t-shirt, there's two options. You can either be a member on YouTube or you can join the Discord. Both of those options will give you an opportunity every month to be entered in a free t-shirt giveaway. And, that you can double your odds if you're both. Just saying. You got 2 times 2 on your opportunities to win if you're in both. So please join the Discord. I didn't do a link. Let me do that. To join the Discord. And tomorrow we'll do the question of the week. https://discord.gg/paranormal portal.
Oh, looks like Maggie M10 is going to be part of it.
Is she? Did she remember? Oh, Maggie. Thank you, Maggie. Yes, up, Portal. Thank you, Maggie. That's very sweet. Okay, so there you go. Thank you to the members. Thank you to the mods. Thank you to everybody that comes in and is a part of these shows. Let me pin that.
Yeah, you guys are amazing.
You guys are amazing. That's absolutely for sure. So, okay, we got that pinned up on top. Deb, hubby almost got in trouble for trying to use my Portal coffee cup for coffee. Tell him, Deb, that's got some serious repercussions. No. All right, so let's get to the cryptid corner, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to talk about creatures and cryptids and some other stuff gets blended in here too into the hodgepodge of articles I have pulled up from Sasquatch Chronicles and Phantoms and Monsters to cover on this segment. So if you love some cryptids, you're in the right place. So first, we're going to visit Sasquatch Chronicles tonight. And this one's from November 10th. What's the date today? This is today old. It's a brand new posting over there on Sasquatch Chronicles blog. Special thanks to Wes. Appreciate it, brother.
Thank you, Wes.
Let's see what Wes posted here. It says November 10th. I thought it was people, but I knew it wasn't. A listener writes, I saw a group of what at the time I thought were people cross near the ridge on a snowfield slope, front range of the Rockies in Colorado in the 80s. Back then, I thought Bigfoot were only in the Pacific Northwest. The group crossed a long distance in a few minutes, looked solid black with a bit of dark red color all over. 2 large ones and 2 smaller ones, and figured in my strange way of justifying odd things that they must be from the Alps. They must be wearing some modern, all the same color suits, matching for all 4 of them. Well, I got the binoculars out and had a shaky glimpse at the nearest one standing in that leaned over posture with feet and lower leg in the snow and a long arm extended. There must be the really cool people who all know about mountaineering, I thought to myself. Our group of 4 campers could not figure out where they had parked, or as far as we knew, there was no other road access for many miles, and they had not crossed by us as they would have needed to do. We were camped at a meltwater pond or spring. I believe at first they were going to come to where we were and then saw us, stopped a bit and watched us, and then went back up the ridge and over in the saddle of the ridgeline. Only 40 years later do I know what I saw, and I know what I saw. Youth is wasted on the young. With the right equipment and the knowledge that could have been the world's best Bigfoot film. But thank you for making your post, and thank you to the show for shedding light in dark places in the woods and in my memory. Doubt the sighting I had would warrant being on the show because I didn't really interact with them. Interesting to me, they did seem to exude a certain charisma. I assume they were a bit more sophisticated than I was, thus being from the Alps. Funny how a person's mind searches for some kind of explanation when things don't quite make sense. We come up with some funny explanations. Yeah, I mean, there are videos out there that may indeed be legitimately Sasquatch going through the deep snow and mountainous terrains very quickly, not running, but the stride is real strong and fast. And I know there's this one clip of some like 4 people. They're like 4 friends, and they're on this peak in the mountains, and they're looking into the mountain saddle below them. It's not really down the mountain much, but it's a lower elevation and distance. And you can see this one dark figure making some pretty incredible progress crossing through this big area of deep snow. And it's just thumping away and going up, and and this is really tricky terrain. And this thing was just plowing through it like nothing. And they were like, that whoever that is, that they are moving. They couldn't believe the pace this thing was going. Now, on the video, it's a little dark speck. You really can't see much. Even when it's really zoomed in, you just got a very pixelated dark mass moving. But it doesn't seem, I don't know, maybe not humanly possible to have taken that route and made that kind of time. Those guys on top of the peak were definitely impressed. They're like, look how fast it's going. That doesn't make sense. I mean, they're actually flabbergasted by the pace this thing is making across this terrain. It's just incredible. So, again, is it a Bigfoot? Maybe. And you kind of got to, I don't know, use your best judgment as much as you can. Try to look for any feedback from other sources. I know, a lot of times, maybe I think a lot of people do, though. Well, I utilize a site called Thinker Thunker, and this guy has done a hell of a job just finding methods to challenge these videos. And one of the things he's done is with anatomical proportions. He's done some great measurement stuff with anatomical proportions. And it seems like a pretty solid recipe. In other words, like with human beings, our legs are much longer than our arms or our torso. Our arms and our torso are pretty even. as far as how long each is. So that's why our arms don't extend much past our waist. I mean, our hands go down on our, on our upper thigh or hips, and that's about it. But with primates, and this is gorillas, orangutans, maybe not orangutans, but gorillas and other primates, the anatomical proportions are almost equal between the torso, the arm length, and the leg length. So
they have long arms.
Yeah, and so that he's using that, measuring up these videos with his graphic tools, coming up with lengths from like the shoulder to the elbow, from the elbow to the wrist, and then the torso, and then the leg length, and he's coming up with pretty even across on those videos that may very well be Bigfoot, and I think that's really powerful. It's very, very cool, and possibly a great tool to use. And I think I was seeing Chucky was talking about M.K. Davis doing that as well, but I really believe that Thinker Thunker might have been first, but I don't know. Maybe M.K. Davis was first. It's not, I just don't know. If you'd like to share experience of the Paranormal Portal, Paranormal with Brent, thank you, Maggie. Appreciate that. Nice link. Well done.
Good idea, Maggie.
Very cool. Very cool. But yeah, MK Davis has done some pretty great stuff. I do have issue with some of his stuff as well. I think he's well, I don't want to get into it, but I think he's created a lot of really bizarre narratives out of his obsession with certain films, and it's frustrating to me because I don't think it really gives the people involved a very fair shake. But that's all I'll say about that. Anyway, that was a good first article. Thank you, Wes, for that article. We got one more from Sasquatch Chronicles blog, and this one is from the 9th, yesterday. And this is the skunk ape. That's Florida's version of the Bigfoot, or at least one of their versions. There's apparently possibly both in Florida, both the traditional Sasquatch and then the skunk ape, which does have anatomical differences, or so is believed, according to Marie Dumont, who's been on the show a few times. Listener writes, I'm a native to Sarasota, Florida, 4th generation. Growing up, I always believed in the Sasquatch/skunk apes. I did due to the tracks, strange noises in the woods, tree breaks, etc. we always found growing up. Well, finally saw my first run around 2004, 2005. My best friend and I were coming out to my property where my dad lived on a Saturday morning. As I was driving down the 2-mile dirt road, he said, "What the hell is that?" And stopped the car, back up, all excited. Well, of course I backed up to see what it was. We'd seen basically everything here just north of Mayaca, River State Park. You can think of panthers included. Well, I backed up and he pointed saying, "There, see it? What the hell is that?" Well, behind a patch of made cane, a skunk ape was squatting eating something. It stood up and walked to a large sand live oak about 50 feet away from it. And mind you, we're only about 50 to 60 yards away from it. It took it about 3 strides to get to the tree, which is about 3 feet across. Once it got to the tree, it stepped behind it and grabbed it with both hands, which were visible, plus its left shoulder and left leg came from the hip down. And we were kind of frustrated as to not have a camera, binoculars, or scope to look at it and get pictures of it with. But nonetheless, we watched it for about 5 minutes. It would look out from behind the tree and see us and pull back behind the tree. Wait a moment, and it would do it again. Next was last year, the week of Thanksgiving. Hurricane Ian came through at the end of September and flooded everything bad. Well, Thanksgiving week is my traditional camping week where I go downstream of the park and camp an average of 3 to 5 days. Been doing for 13 years now. Over the last 7 years, my son, now 12, has been going with me. Well, this past year, the first and second nights of camping, there was wood knocks both sides of camp. Now, camp is only accessible by boat. No one is around for miles. The second night there, I was looking around with the flashlight at about 8:30 or so, roughly an hour after the wood knocks, and well, across the river, there's an eye shine. At first, I think a gator, as we're by the river and the water's still up, but then I watched the eye shine rise well over 6 feet from the ground and go back down to about 2 feet from the ground. Kind of like a deer will do in a light, except the eyes were about 6 inches apart and large. I pondered on it for a few, then went back to the fire for a few, and then bed. Checked it out the next day for the approximate measurements from the nearby trees, and nothing happened after that. Well, this year in the flag pond, I saw another one. I was idling down the driveway and saw something run like a linebacker through the chest-tall grass and into the scrub oaks, shaking the young oaks as it went. I got to the house a quarter mile away and got into the four-wheeler to check it out. One of the trees it ran past was 9 feet at its top, and this critter was taller than that. The path through the trees was like a bull had been through it. The trees it ran through had a clearly torn pathway as well from where it had run into it. Leaving the Saturday before Thanksgiving for another camping trip, some spot. This time's a full week, Saturday AM to Saturday PM. Got a GoPro-style camera to take along and a game cam, and hopefully we'll find something good. My wife and son have both been bugging me to write to you. I've seen a lot of other things throughout my life that sound crazy, but I have witnesses for most. Yeah, there's no question. There's several of these things down there. It sounds like what?
I just can't. I'm just trying to put myself in the shoes of that moment. Like, you're looking over there in the watery area, and you see this action, like, it's just some crocs, and then all of a sudden it goes, 6 feet in the air. It's like, oh,
it's no croc. It's not a croc.
croc.
It's no longer a croc for sure. It's a croc. Oh my God. That's crazy. Nope. Yeah. I think it's fascinating. And of course, again, talking to Marie down there, and I'm going to try to get a hold of Dave Shealy too, to see if he'll come on the show and talk about his research. He's got some pretty incredible videos through the years, and has been at it for an awful long time. And I think he's got to have a lot of information. So yeah, I think that's very powerful. Very powerful stuff. Whatever you believe.
It is.
Yes, it is, Mr. Sheldon. Yes, it is. All right. All right. We're going to get to the next one here. I got to make sure I got that done. Yeah. Okay, so that's done. Now we're going to head into Phantoms and Monsters. Okay, we're going to head into another Sasquatch story, and this one's more of a historical. These stories came out of the Vietnam War, talking about the incredible Bigfoot-like creatures over there that were known as the rock apes. And I don't know much about them, but what I understand about the rock apes is that they're generally 5 to 6 feet tall. They're not the huge monsters like we have over here or in Australia or any number of other places. They seem to be a little more diminutive, but they're one of the legends that I had heard of the rock apes that apparently came from the Mountain Arts or the some other tribe in Vietnam is that if you see one, don't let it grab you, because if it grabs you, it will not let go. You can't get away from it, and it will drag you away, and you'll never be seen again. So apparently, I mean, and if you consider what the strength must be in these things, a chimpanzee could rip your arm right off your body. Even a full-grown man, well-muscled man, would have no chance of resisting the strength of a chimpanzee, which is, 3 to 4 feet tall. And, this is something
That's crazy.
It is. It is. And then if you think of a gorilla, which is about the same size as the rock apes, well, there's any number of estimates of what a gorilla strength is like, but one that I had read years ago was that it was believed that a gorilla, a typical gorilla, was about as strong as 8 Olympic weightlifters. And these are the guys that are lifting 1,000 pounds. The big, huge barbells that curl over when they lift them, these are the Olympic type of athletes. Well, multiply that by 8 and you're in gorilla range. So, that's like 8,000 or better pounds that these things could lift. And it's an estimate. But
Jeez.
That's a whole lot of strength on something that's not a lot bigger than a human being. But the strength is just, it's literally superhuman, to us. So
yeah,
crazy. Well, how much more is a 8-foot Sasquatch? If it's, got the same type of muscle density and perhaps anatomical sizes. Because the interesting thing about like chimpanzees and gorillas and stuff is that their rib cages are wide on the bottom, but they kind of cone out towards the neck. And everything that you see on that gorilla or chimpanzee is solid muscle all the way to that rib cage, which is much deeper than ours, which is just underneath the surface. So that's a hell of a lot more muscle mass. And then it's a different kind of muscle. It's a much more dense muscle tissue than we have. So it's not surprising, but there is quite a bit of difference. So anyway, this story comes from phantomsandmonsters.com. And again, this is Lon Strickler's site. Wonderful site, thousands and thousands. Well, I don't know about thousands and thousands, but probably thousands of actual encounter stories that have been cataloged on this site. Lon and his research partners around the nation do a lot of research into Bigfoot, Dogman, winged humanoids, etc. And you can find more about that at phantomsandmonsters.com, as well as Lon's published work and information about his podcast, which is Phantoms and Monsters Radio. So, and definitely head over to YouTube, Phantoms and Monsters Radio, and get subscribed, because Lon's been working hard on increasing the size of his channel, and he deserves it. He's been at this for decades, and so he's one of those pillars of the Fortean and paranormal communities. So definitely support Lon and all his efforts. All right. Here we go. Soldiers' stories, encounters with the infamous rock apes. And again, these come from the Vietnam era. So American and South Vietnamese soldiers fighting throughout the Indochina during the Vietnam War encountered various hairy hominids, which they referred to as rock ape. There we go. I muted myself, but I had to cough.
I thought so.
Yeah, I'm not letting you know, because you'll do that silly sound. All right, ape story lingers. One of these days. Cam Ranh Bay, Vietnam. With binoculars and sonar, people probe Loch Ness for its monster. Expeditions search the Himalayas for the abominable snowman, and the guards at the depot here keep a watch for Powell's ape. That's in Cam Ranh Bay, Vietnam. It had been nearly 3 years since the monster was almost seen by a bleary-eyed guard. Detecting movement on the perimeter, the guard fired and the beast fled. When morning came, the area was examined and a footprint and a trail of blood were found. Oof. The footprint was neither human nor ape. A picture was taken of the track, but no one could decide who or what had made it. It wasn't long before Captain Powell, then a depot company commander, found his name associated with the monster. All that remains now is a small photograph of the ammunition area's orderly room wall, on the ammunition area's orderly room wall. Perhaps the legend of Powell's ape is all there ever was. But the guards at the ammunition area here still have something to think about besides Charlie. That was
Taiwan.
That says Taiwan. That's actually kind of relevant too. Huh. You're kind of on it tonight, ex-paranormal detector. That's interesting. You're in the region. It's actually Vietnam, but yeah, close. You're in the ballpark. This is from the Army Reporter, 27th of April, 1970. That story had come from.
Jeez.
Next up is we're all familiar with stories of Bigfoot and Sasquatch sightings, and even the tales of the Yeti in the snow-covered mountains of Tibet. And now it's time to introduce you to the Vietnamese version of Bigfoot. They were taking a breather. The 6-man patrol from the 101st Airborne Division's LRRPs was set up in a protective wagon wheel position. Heads facing outward, feet pointed toward the center. As secure a formation as the terrain would allow. And it wasn't allowing much. The behind-the-lines patrol had taken them into the remote and difficult stretch of mountainous jungle in the central highlands. The terrain was rugged and steep, and at night, the LRRPs had to wedge themselves between trees to keep from slipping or sliding downhill. Wiping the sweat from their eyes and leaning against the heavy rucksacks, the tired LRRPs tended to loosen straps and realign equipment as they rested, all the while watching and listening to the jungle around them. On a quiet guard, the 6 soldiers were facing out against the wall of green and brown underbrush, guarding against any Viet Cong who might have tracked them or who might happen upon them by chance. The combined weight of their rucksacks, weapons, and LBE, the load-bearing equipment harness that held their web gear, was 100 pounds or so. That's like Russ's pack from Expedition Bigfoot. His is about 100 pounds. And climbing the steep hills with that kind of load took some doing, so the break was a momentary but necessary respite. Gary Linderer thought that the surrounding jungle was quiet and deceptively peaceful. The forest noises, the occasional rustling of the wind through the trees, the grunts of an animal in the distance, and the sound of birds could easily lull a soldier into a false sense of serenity, even though the war was very much around them. However, if anything was out of the ordinary, there was no indication. That is, until the small trees and underbrush just 15 yards uphill began to shake violently. Linderer's attention and frenzied focus on the other team members turned to the commotion. On guard, the LRRPs brought up their weapons and waited. Linderer was the closest team member to the hubbub. His heart was jumping in his chest as he watched and waited for the intruder. While he was ready for a VC soldier, he wasn't ready for the face that peered through the underbrush. If it was a Viet Cong soldier, then it was a damn ugly one. An oblong head framed the hair-covered face. Dark, deep-set eyes lay beneath a prominent brow, and they did nothing to complement the heavy jowls and angry mouth. As it stepped onto a small clearing, Linderer could see the matted reddish-brown hair ran down the creature's neck and covered most of its body. Whatever it was, it stood at least 5 feet tall, had broad shoulders, long, thick, muscular arms, and a heavy torso. It walked upright, and in the small clearing, it stopped and studied the Americans. "What the hell is that?" someone called out from behind Linderer. "It's a rock ape," said another team member. Another team member disagreed. No, it ain't," he said. "I've seen rock apes, and that sure as hell isn't a rock ape. It's an orangutan, isn't it?" Linderer asked while the others kept their eyes glued on the strange creature. "Well, if it is, then he can't read a map. There ain't no orangutans in Vietnam." The ape-like creature soon lost interest in the 6 LRRPs, turned back the way it had come, and easily climbed back up the steep rise. "It's an ape of some kind," one of the LRRPs said. "It has to be. But then, maybe it wasn't." In the central highlands region of Vietnam, in the remote province of Con Tum, where the country bumps up against Cambodia and Laos, there was a mounting evidence of the existence of strange human-like creatures the locals call the Ngui Rung, the people of the forest, Bigfoot. While the Mountainards and other tribal peoples have believed that the non-human species have inhabited the region for centuries, scientists now say they may be something more to the folktale and legend. Toward the end of the American War in Vietnam, numerous sightings by Viet Cong and NVA soldiers of ape-like creatures walking upright became so overwhelming that the North Vietnamese Party Secretariat ordered scientists in the region to investigate the Ngui Rung while the war was still going on. In 1974, as the North Vietnamese Army and the Viet Cong pushed south to overrun the country, Professor Vo Cui of the Vietnam National University was sent into the region to conduct an investigation. Vo Cui discovered the Ngui Rung footprint in the forest floor and made a cast of the impression, which was analyzed and studied by Vietnamese academics. It was wider than a human footprint and too big for an ape. The unusual find added credence to the folklore, or the folktale, and it also set off a debate in the scientific arena. Other expeditions were mounted but yielded few results. Chance sightings of the Ngui Rung continued, ranging from small creatures to larger ones. Eyewitnesses had the difference of opinion as to the exact color of the creature's body hair. Like those cited earlier, these latest Ngui Rung walk upright and were described as having human characteristics. In 1982, Professor Tran Hong Viet became the second scientist to discover Ngui Rung footprints, and while scientists debated the actual existence of such creatures, many of the critics' arguments went up in smoke when zoologist John McKinnon and a team of scientists discovered the 3 previously unknown mammals in the Vu Quang Mountain rainforest in 1992. The discovery of new mammals demonstrated that the remote regions might well hold other new discoveries, including clues that might solve the riddle of Vietnam's Bigfoot. Ironically, it was McKinnon who, in 1969, came across man-like footprints in the jungles of Borneo, ascribed by locals as the Batutut. McKinnon wrote that the toes of the creature looked quite human, and that the tracks would have been about the right size for an Asiatic black bear. However, the only bear known in Borneo is the sun bear, which is considerably smaller. To this day, the controversy continues, even as international teams of scientists scour the remote mountain villages and jungles looking for what the local villagers say have always been there. And that was an excerpt from Strange But True Stories of the Vietnam War by Craig P.J. Jorgensen. Next up is this next piece. It was 1969. I was out on patrol one evening, just before dark in the North Tu Corps in North Vietnam. We were returning to the hill when we encountered hostile fire. The squad was caught off guard, so we used what cover was available. The fight had been going on for maybe only a few minutes when movement caught my eye through the thick vegetation. I saw what I thought was a large man breaking cover from behind my left side. As the thing ran past me, I realized it wasn't a man, and was not really sure of what I was seeing. The thing was about 7 feet tall and had an enormous build. Though not completely covered with hair, the thing had reddish-brown hair covering a good portion of its body. It had covered about 30 yards very quickly, passing within just yards of my position. When it got hit in the crossfire, the thing stumbled once or twice, but never fell. All of a sudden, the enemy broke and ran. One even left his weapon behind, and they were yelling something, but none of us ever knew what it was they were yelling. We slowly regrouped and made sure no one was wounded and discussed what we thought we had seen. As it was getting dark and there were hostiles in that area, we decided to get back to the hill. That night we heard several howls sounding very similar to the ones that you have recorded, coming from all over the place. Some sounded like they were just outside of the hooch, and others sounded more than a mile away. They were all kinds of sounds, from whines to growls to sounds that sounded like barks. And needless to say, no one slept very well that night. The next morning, all of us that were on that patrol decided to try and track this thing. It took a lot of talking to get Tops to let us go looking for it, but after hearing the same story for the whole squad, he decided to let us have a chance to bring it back. We returned to the area and found the blood trail leading into the jungle, and we trailed it for quite some time when we found the body of an enemy soldier that had been almost entirely torn apart. We do not know exactly what happened, but I have a good notion to what may have happened. We basically ran out of the area and back to our hill. The rest of the time we were in Vietnam, I never heard the sounds or saw anything like it again. The talk of what we had seen spread very quickly, and some of the locals called it a name that I can neither pronounce nor remember. But the translation, if I recall, was stench monkey or foul monkey. Something like that. I can't remember for sure. What I do know is that it bothered me so much that I transferred from there to a job on a helicopter so I wouldn't have to be in the jungle anymore. After returning home to Alabama when my tour had ended, I occasionally heard sounds that reminded me so much of that encounter. It had been years since I'd left Alabama and moved to the west central Illinois. I seldom thought of that day in Vietnam or the things I heard and saw. The recording is exactly what I heard over there. I could close my eyes and still hear the howl in Vietnam. Regrettably, I have mixed feelings about discovering your website, relieved that someone else may know what I went through, but frightened that there may be something in the area of where I now live. I realize that you are interested in pursuing this creature or one like it, but let me warn you from someone who has seen what it is capable of firsthand. Don't. That's by StanCourtney.com, or that's from StanCourtney.com. And then there's this one. While at an Army military police school, my brother-in-law, Craig Miles of Boise, Idaho, met a Vietnam veteran who recalled a low-altitude Special Forces drop in the interior during 1967-68. It was the middle of the night, and there were no villages for 15 miles. For a period of 3 nights, they heard choking and gurgling noises. On the 4th day, they found the upper half of a decomposing Bigfoot-like creature. It had been blown in half by something, not them. This was apparently not the noise they had heard. A mate, possibly? This was the speculation that was circulating. They could see into the body cavity, spine, lungs, and such. All was crawling with bugs, and there was shorter hair on the huge head. The eyes sunk back 1.5 inches from the brow line. It had long arms, very large and long fingers. One hand was still wrapped around a branch. He didn't say what the color was, but did mention that it had a flat nose. If the creature had its legs, its estimated height would have been around 8 foot tall. There was no sign of the lower half of the body. They were able to see the teeth, all flat, well-formed molars, except the canines, which were longer and pointed. Seemed adapted to living in the forest with long arms and fingers, or perhaps just builds night nests like gorillas sometimes do. That was by a Steve Williams.
Oh my God.
There's several of these. This is the next one. The matter of wild people or feral humans seems to be a reoccurring phenomena in Southeast Asia. Once while in the Marines, I showed a Vietnamese colleague a reference of Mark Hall's Hominid book to a term used for wild men in Vietnam. He was surprised to see the print word and explained that growing up in his village, a wild man and a woman were once captured from the jungle after they'd been stealing food, chickens, I think it was. Either they were killed or kept in cage prisons, something unfortunate in either case. They were people, he explained, and not something ape-like by any means, but they were very dirty and had long, ragged hair, and I think he said that they couldn't talk. He seemed to suggest that while this was a rare occurrence, such incidents would be heard of from time to time. That was by Nick Suchik, Haman investigator. Here's the next piece. We ran into them frequently, and I have a friend whose recon position on Dong Den was overrun one night by hundreds of them. What? That sounds a little...
What?
That sounds a little different. They made
Hundreds.
Yeah, I guess. They made a noise that sounded just like dog barking, and in fact, you'd swear it was a dog. One time on a ridge in Nui Mo Tao, about 15 kilometers south of Hue, about 8 of them came walking up a trail and surprised a squad of our platoon while it was stopped for lunch. All hell broke loose because they looked very much like North Vietnamese soldiers, in khaki, same height and size, and color, and as they came around a bend on the trail about 10 meters from the unsuspecting GIs. I was with the other 2 squads of the platoon eating our lunch on the far side of a clearing about 50 meters wide that separated the 2 elements. The trails wound up the ridge and then through the clearing. All of a sudden, without warning, the lone squad opened up with everything they had, M16s, M79s, hand grenades. I grabbed about 300 rounds of gun ammo and my M60 and ran across the clearing with the platoon sergeant, everyone else stayed home, to the cover of a huge toppled tree that was lying on the far side close to some point of contact. The sergeant and I looked at one another, nodded, and then came up over the top ready to blast away, but what we saw instead blew us away. The firing had been nonstop, and we fully expected to engage a sizable enemy force, but instead we found ourselves looking at our men, some seated, some standing, some kneeling, and firing at those ghostly images swooshing around in brush and trees, some off the ground by that point, in all directions. All except one was light brown to reddish brown in color and about 5.5, 4 feet tall. It says about 5.5, 4 feet tall. One dark, almost black male remained fighting to protect the other's retreat, and he was flying through the branches and rushing the men with his teeth bared. He was one very brave animal, I'll tell you that. Then, as if someone had snapped their fingers, they all just seemed to disappear. Zip, and the male turned and flashed into the trees, and he was out of sight in a second. This may sound very strange to you, but although I had no or little concern about killing the enemy, the killing of innocent animals turned my stomach and could enrage me if done without being a necessity. But I searched the site and found not a drop of blood, which totally amazed me, given the amount of firing that had gone on. I wonder to this day if the men were shooting just to scare the rock apes away, or whether they were really just poor marksmen. The men who'd suffered the surprise looked a bit worse for wear, and I'm sure a few had to wash their shorts out as the result of the unwelcome visit. It really scared the crap out of them. I kid you not. We, on the other hand, do suffer one casualty. A trooper had an eardrum blown out by a muzzle blast of the first shot fired because the trooper who first saw the apes just picked up his M16 and fired without saying a word, and the muzzle was right next to this poor fellow's ear when he did. Oh, no. Apart from that, I have all the same questions your student does and would love to hear just exactly what sort of apes they were. I got to check the clock here. Yeah, we're getting there.
But where does the hundreds of ape come in? Where did that come? Where did that go?
I don't know. It just was kind of a weird mention, but I don't know. I just can't imagine there were that many in any group. Lieutenant, what? How far does this go? This is the last one. Lieutenant Alan Spila of Cumberland RI spotted footprints while piloting at the 101 Airborne Division helicopter. I've been looking at footprints from the air for a while now, and I noticed the exceptional size of these immediately. I landed to get a closer look, and sure enough, these tracks were about 18 inches long and 8 inches wide. Someone suggested that they were made by Ho Chi Minh sandals, which are made of car tires, which were embedded deeply, indicating a heavy wearer. The stride of whatever made them was about 4 feet, he said. Warrant Officer Daryl Santella of Long Beach, California, saw the footprints at the same time as Spilla and estimated that if made by a man, he must have been about 8 feet tall. That's by Dr. Bernard Huvelman. Wow. That's crazy. So that's a whole collection of reports, apparently out of Vietnam, talking about the rock apes. What do you think?
Crazy. I mean, I will say, like, that one story, I'm not too surprised. As far as what I did read about the Vietnam War, that they may not have hit any of them, because I think the accuracy rating was like, it was something around the lines of like every 15 or 20 some shots fired, only one bullet actually hit. So
sure, yeah,
I'm not too surprised.
No, I suppose not. I mean, quite honestly, I think at that time people were just being rushed to field. I mean, they didn't get a lot of excessive training. They just got, here you go, do push-ups, run. Here's how you shoot this. Here's how you shoot that. Okay, you're going to Nam. I mean, it wasn't a time of really deliberately training people to their best. It was just a matter of throwing bodies out there, right?
Well, yeah, but people were drafted, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that probably makes sense, actually. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't think I don't think a lot of their hearts were in it anyway, because nobody wanted to be there. With the exception of a few, there were some people that were definitely good to go back and go back and go back, but for the most part, nobody wanted to be there. It was hell. It was apparently a very hellish deployment and full of horrors and confusion and bad planning and any number of issues. But yeah, and then there's rock apes as well.
Oh God! Oh man, yeah. You don't have to just deal with, as they say, Charlie out in the woods. You have to deal with rock apes too.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It's not just the normal terrors. There's other things out there. The interesting one was that one that got hurt, tore that guy apart. The North Vietnamese guy.
Yeah.
It's like done.
Yeah, and the I guess Sasquatch looking one that was torn in half. I mean, I was thinking, like, what could do that? I guess another one.
Well, I was wondering if it was like a landmine that it hit or something. The mining.
Okay.
There's minefields everywhere.
I didn't think of that.
Yeah,
that's a good point.
That it was blown in half like that. But you're right. What if it was a battle between two alphas or something? Could be. I guess. I didn't think of that. I was thinking it just must have stumbled onto a mine that blew up, and so
that's very good inference too. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. What do I know? I'm just.
We're just idiots with a mic.
Sure, why not? Why not, huh? Who you calling an idiot, huh?
Hey, your words, not mine. I'm just copying.
You shouldn't copy. You should not copy. You lost copying privileges now.
Fine, I'll steal it.
Well, that's about going to wrap it up for tonight. Anything in closing, Sheldon?
Absolutely. Just like Maggie posted earlier, feel free. Oh, that is the wrong link. This is the right one. Paranormalportal.net. It's the new home base for the Paranormal Portal.
Yeah.
Go ahead and stay up to date on the new episodes, the new podcasts coming out, and when we're going to be live. And feel free, as always, if you have an interesting story, feel free to get yourself set up for an interview.
Yes. Maggie, no. Orang pendek are from Indonesia and generally are about 3 to 4 feet tall. They seem to be very, I suspect orang pendek will end up being probably some offshoot of an orangutan. Even in the description of where they run away, they throw their hands up and run away with their hands above their head, which is very, very orangutanish. And so orang means people, pandek means small or little people. So the orang pendek is more diminutive, much more diminutive, but still looks like a small version of Bigfoot is what people say. But I don't know. I guess we'll find out. Yeah. In any regard, that's going to about wrap it up for us. As I said, thank you, Sheldon, for those closing remarks. And let's see. I'll be back tomorrow night. It's just me. So join me then, 7 p.m. Pacific time right here on YouTube and listen live on TFR as always. But remember, we love you all. Be good, be kind, be nice. Take care of each other. Help each other out. Find the magic in every day. And remember to laugh as much as you can. You guys take care. Have a great night. See you tomorrow night. And we'll dive back into it for another 2 hours. So until then, love you, mean it. Okay.
Good night.
That's going to do it. And credits.
Hi, my name is Ella.